the show again with another review, and to continue with my Wrestlemania review series, which I'm not going to keep up for very much longer, because Wrestlemania now is getting worse and worse as the years are going on and the shows are going on for me. And not only that, but I haven't watched all that many shows after WrestleMania 11. I have seen them on YouTube, but and it's quickly taken down, so I haven't really kept up with it. And to me, it's not as good as the earlier shows. And this particular one that I'm going to be doing is for this video is talking about WrestleMania 8, which came out in 1992, and it was held in the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. And this, excuse me for a minute. This particular WrestleMania is when the WWF jumped the shark in terms of WrestleMania. This was really the first WrestleMania that has gone downhill. And it has, and to me personally, as a wrestling fan from the 80s, this is when the wrestling has gone downhill in terms of quality matches on WrestleMania. Because to me, since now you guarantee to have maybe one good match, or maybe two, if that, in WrestleManias ever since. In terms of match quality and stuff like that, and this is really the real story of it was WrestleMania 8. And for a long time, I haven't really even seen this match, this particular card, for a long time, until I happened to see it on YouTube, and I saw it like twice, and that was blocked. But WWF put a block on it, so now you really can't see any of the full WrestleManias anymore on YouTube. So it really stinks that you can't watch the older WrestleManias. So this one, they had a boatload of problems. The first problem number one, was that when the show first starts, the stadium was like half filled, or 3/4 filled. There was plenty of it, especially when the show first starts, the first couple of matches. There were like hundreds, if not thousands, of empty seats, empty. And that's because I've heard other critics, other reviewers of WrestleManias, say there was like traffic problems or going into the Hoosier Dome, and other, I don't know if it was security problems or whatever the hell it was. But it took a long time for fans to come into the stadium and fill it. But eventually was a sellout, but it took a long time for the fans to come in and physically fill the stadium as the event was going on. And of course, the other major problem was that this should have been the WrestleMania with the dream matchup of Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair for the WWF Championship. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a background on it. What happened was, in Survivor Series 91, there was a championship match between Hogan, who won the championship from the WrestleMania 7, was Sergeant Slaughter, and now in November, the WWF was giving a big push to the Undertaker to, be the next champ, and he did beat Hogan. But also around that time, Ric Flair came into the WWF at that time, spelling that he's the real champ, and he was walking around and carrying his championship belt from WCW. So it was a big kind of, and it was every time when you see Ric Flair carrying his WCW belt, the belt got blurred or digitally blurred out by WWF programming. I don't know if it was an actual storyline or because WCW was making a stink that Ric Flair's, not only did he go to switch to WWF, but carrying that belt, telling us the real world champion. This really was rivalry going on between him and Hogan, that he should be given But Russell Hogan is the real world champ, and Hogan's a phony champ, and continue that storyline. But that didn't stay very long, because he did go to the Survivor Series, and the Undertaker beat Hogan thanks to a distraction by Ric Flair by hitting Hogan with a chair, which set up another pay-per-view a few days later. It was called This Tuesday in Texas, where Hogan, thanks to interference from Ric Flair, won back his championship belt a few days later. So Jack Tunney says this is getting ridiculous with all the stupid interfering going on in the two matches. So he decided to declare the heavyweight championship vacant, and to have 30 superstars in the ring for the Royal Rumble in January. And so you have 3 superstars, because I think Hogan and The Undertaker were like last two guys to go into that match. And Ric Flair went in third, and he ended up winning the whole damn thing. So he won the Royal Rumble, he won the belt, and for some reason originally they did have like this mock press conference where Jack Tunney announced that Hogan was going to be the number 1 contender for the heavyweight title against Ric Flair, which was going to be huge, because WCW fans were going, oh, that Ric Flair is the better champ. Of course, WWF fans and Hogan was the best champ because Hogan beat everybody, except for the Ultimate Warrior. He beat everybody for the in his championship matches, particularly Wrestlemania matches. So it was going to go down as a Wrestlemania class, not only just a Wrestlemania class, but one of the best wrestling matches ever between the two guys. But unfortunately, they decided to pull this other crap with Sid Vicious. Of course, he could, in the WWF, couldn't wrestle the name Sid Vicious, so they called him Sid Justice. And what he did was he didn't like the fact that he got passed over for the championship match of WrestleMania. So in a Saturday night's main event show, Sid Justice, or Psycho Sid, turned his back on Hogan, and so Hogan got mad, got all bent out of shape over it, and said he wanted to wrestle Sid Justice in WrestleMania instead of going after the title of Flair. So they would say, fuck you. Vince McMahon they say, fuck you to all you wrestling fans. You're not going to get your dream matchup at WrestleMania. You're the best show, the Super Bowl of wrestling. You're not going to get the dream matchup. So what happened was they slid in Randy Savage to wrestle Ric Flair. And of course, they had the whole bit with Ric Flair using doctored photos of him and Randy's wife, Elizabeth, saying that he's having an affair with Elizabeth and all this stuff. So they upped the ante on this match. And on top of that, the heavyweight championship match at WrestleMania 8 wasn't even the main event. They had a co-main event, and to end the first half of the card of WrestleMania 8 was the heavyweight championship match between Flair and Savage. And it was a pretty damn good match, but it was a crazy match. And I'm talking about the quality of wrestling between Flair and Savage. I'm talking about the crazy match because Mr. Perfect was, the consultant for Ric Flair. And he kept, every 5 seconds, he kept interfering in the match. Like every minute or two of the match, he kept interfering. And the referees that didn't disqualify Flair or anything else. And it was crazy. Flair was wrestling Savage, and then Mr. Perfect would come in and interfere, and then Savage would go after Perfect, and they would go after Savage, and Savage would go after Flair outside the ring, and they was going after Perfect, and it was just, when the craziness of that stuff ended, we actually have in-ring action. It wasn't, a bad match with Savage limping around with a bad knee, because his knee got injured during the match, and Savage ended up pulling the win. And the other good match on this. Well, we'll get to the other main event first. Hogan faces Sid Vicious, and Hogan won on disqualification by Papa Shango. I don't know why in the hell this Papa Shango, this crazy voodoo guy, came in and interfered, hit Hogan over the head with his voodoo stick, whatever the hell it was, and Sid Vicious got disqualified, and the two, and Sid Vicious and Psycho Sid and Papa Shango was beating the crap out of Hogan. Of all people, the Ultimate Warrior, who hasn't been in the WWF since SummerSlam '91 because he got fired for asking for more money to go into the match in SummerSlam '91. He comes in and interferes, and of course the big push was to get the Ultimate Warrior back in the WWF, which of course he was at that time. And of course he ended up getting fired a second time. Then he came back a third time. He got fired a third time. So it's getting ridiculous. Now, other than those two particular matches, this was the last WrestleMania match that Jake the Snake had. I think later on he came back and did WrestleMania like 13, like either WrestleMania 12 or WrestleMania 13. He came back a couple years later. But this is the last consecutive WrestleMania match that Jake the Snake had. And I think other than Hogan, there was only one other guy who had more matches at WrestleMania than Jake the Snake at that time, and that was Tito Santana. But you want to get to Santana in a minute. Jake the Snake wrestled The Undertaker, and this was Undertaker's second WrestleMania match. And he beat Jake the Snake handily, rather quickly. And then after that, he left to join WCW, and then, like I said, a couple years later, he came back to the WWF. But when Jake the Snake came back to the WWF, and he was in a tag team match, and the WrestleMania comeback he had, he was out of shape. He was, for years he was on drugs. He was drunk half the time, or he was hungover half the time, and was drunk and everything else. And it was really sad to see him out of shape for that last WrestleMania match that they had. I think it was WrestleMania 13. I think it was when he came back. And the other, with Tito Santana, this was thankfully the last match that Tito Santana had, because he is even though he was one of the more popular wrestlers during the 80s, he won 2 championships in the decade. He was the IC champ, and he was a tag team champ. But in WrestleMania, he is a stinking loser in WrestleMania, because he won the first WrestleMania match. Never won another one after that, and this was the last WrestleMania match he had. He was in the El Meldor character. He was wearing the bullfight outfit and everything else, and thankfully it was the last match he had. And I said, God, can this guy ever, the WWF give this guy a bone and let him win one WrestleMania match? I think he in his last WrestleMania match he wrestled Shawn Michaels, so Shawn Michaels was getting a big push then as a singles wrestler. So that's probably, I think that was the reason why. And the other match they got a big publicity on was the match between Roddy Piper and Bret the Hitman Hart for the IC title. And this was a pretty damn good match. And this match went on for a long time. I think it went for like about 25 minute match. And I have to say, this was the best match that Roddy Piper ever had in WrestleMania. The only other match that he had that I actually liked was the WrestleMania 3 match with Enemy and Adonis, but it was 5 years ago. And for a couple of years, he was in for 2 years, WrestleMania 4 and 5. He didn't have a match. Came back WrestleMania 6, he had a match. WrestleMania, I don't think WrestleMania, the band was around in WrestleMania 6. WrestleMania 7, he did some commentary. He wasn't in a match of WrestleMania 7. So WrestleMania 8 he came back and did a match. And this was just as good, if not better, than the Indian Adonis match in WrestleMania 3. In which he lost the IC title to Bret Hart. And when Roddy Piper won the IC belt in the Royal Rumble, beating the Mountie, or Jacques Rougeau, who was the Mountie, I was surprised as hell that he won. Because he never, even though he had match in the 80s, he had matches with Hogan, but he never won the championship. As far as I know, he wasn't in a championship match for the tag belts, and so to have him win, there was a big, for me, it was a big surprise. And giving it over to Bret Hart, and he wrestled the match pretty clean. Or Roddy Piper did, because we know that no matter who he wrestled in his career, he fought the same way, no matter if Roddy Piper was the heel or the face or the baby face. He wrestled exactly the same way. He always fought dirty. Same thing with Randy Savage. Almost the same thing with Randy Savage too. And he won the match, and that was really the best match. I feel that was the best match on that entire card, because they didn't really care for the Savage Flair match, because it should have been Hogan and Flair, and because of that, I had to downgrade that particular match a little bit. Even though I am a fan of Randy Savage and all that, I feel it was a little too neat. It was too neat. But I'm not saying that like the match. I just said that I felt like it's like, yuck. It's a championship match, because it got so crazy with all the stupid interference that was going on. But as for a match, I thought it was funny during that match to hear Bobby Heenan keep rooting for Flair, because he had like money, or his character, or the character that Bobby Heenan was playing off of. Kind of like he had like money invested in Flair winning and saying it's a champ and all that stuff. And then later on in the year, Ric Flair won the title back. And then he eventually loses the title. I think I forgot how he lost that title. Originally, after he regains it from Savage, I forgot how he lost the title. And then Yokozuna ends up gaining the title in WrestleMania 9. I think Flair lost to Bret Hart. That's what I think it was. And then of course, the next WrestleMania was Yokozuna that won. And which I might go up to maybe WrestleMania 11 doing these reviews. Because like I said, the WrestleMania's getting worse and worse from here on in. And like I said at the top, this is when the WWF definitely jumped the shark. Pulled a Fonzie from Happy Days and jumping the shark with WrestleMania 8, because it should have been, they consider it a dream matchup between Hogan and Flair. And I think every critic who has an account on YouTube who does wrestling reviews, they're all complaining this should have been a dream matchup with Hogan and Flair. And the WWF and Vince McMahon screwed everybody. And also, of course, at the time of WrestleMania 8, there was a lot of controversy going on with the World Wrestling Federation as well, outside of the wrestling ring. Because there was and you can see this on YouTube as well, this famous episode of Donahue Show, where this gay sexual harassment stuff was coming out with Pat Patterson and Terry Garvin, and some of the wrestlers were speaking out on this, and that was one of the few episodes of the Donahue Show that's actually on YouTube. So I actually checked that one out, because you have Superstar Billy Graham was on that show, Bruno Sammartino, making comments on it, plus Barry O, who was of course Cowboy Bob Orton's brother, Barry Orton, or Barry O, as he used to do this all the time, Randy Orton's uncle, who was sexually harassed by by Pat Patterson. And of course, he had all the actual writers who follow wrestling, like Dave Meltzer and another guy. At the time, had a wrestling radio show. I don't know if he still does it. Over 23 years later. But all that stuff came out. That episode aired like in March in 1992, just before WrestleMania. And of course, there was also a Larry King live show, which Bruno Sammartino was on. And talking about all this gay sexual harassment stuff going on in WWF, as well as, and also you had the steroid scandal on top of that. So you had all this stuff going on with the WWF outside of the wrestling ring. And of course you had this screw job with the wrestling fans, pardon the expression, with not having Hogan and Flair in the main event in WrestleMania 8. But as a show, I don't think the matches were, that bad as a whole. But of course, I know I've said it a few times already. The Jump the Shark WrestleMania without Hogan and Flair it really ruined it for me. And that was when I really stopped liking WrestleMania because of the not having Hogan and Flair in the main event, and the way they changed the main event by having Hogan last, or his match last, instead of the WWF World title, heavyweight title last. And if they're not going to put that match last, I don't care what the matchup is. That match is not the last match on the court of a WrestleMania, or any of the other courts around the country, or any of the other pay-per-views. It's a joke. To me, it's a joke. Except for the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble gets a pass on that, but the Royal Rumble should be the last match. In my opinion, with the heavyweight championship match first, and then the Royal Rumble. But if they don't put the heavyweight championship match in WrestleMania last, it's a joke. To me, it's a joke. As a wrestling fan, the heavyweight championship match should always be last, no matter what the matchup is. So that's my review. I know it's a little bit longer than my other videos have been. This is my review of WrestleMania 8. Please click on the video. Please rate it. Feel free to comment on it. Please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. And also, you can check out my other WrestleMania videos, but all my other older videos on RallyC. Not only on my YouTube channel, but also you can check them all out on at least most of them now on RallyC.com. You can check out my other WrestleMania review series on RallyC.com. That's ROWDY RallyC.com. And you also check out the Rally Reviewers site. His contact with TV trash reviews, and he also does wrestling reviews as well. Not as frequent as I've been doing recently, but he's not constantly doing the older WrestleMania reviews. That's the more recent shows. And other big pay-per-view shows he does as well. And I have to say this, Chris Lee Moore, who was the Rally reviewer, he does a damn good job on his shows, on his videos. He does a terrific job on it. I can't praise him enough. Because that's how good his content is. He's very, very good. He's very entertaining in his videos. My videos are boring in comparison to his. So check him out on RallyC.com. His videos as well as mine. And you can check out all my videos on my YouTube channel, as well as RallyC.com. Thank you for watching, and catch you next time.